Hello, this is Dan Towey with RC Fly TV, and welcome to the series on 3D helicopter aerobatics. In this series, we're going to take you through pretty much beginning to intermediate level 3D maneuvers. We're going to start with the helicopter aerobatics basics, loops, rolls, flips, inverted flying. We're going to work on auto rotations, kind of just go through some of the different things and how to perform them, what to expect, what's normal. And then we'll touch on the prerequisites for each set, what you need to be good at before you start to make sure that you don't wind up in a situation where you're going to result in a smashed up helicopter. And we'll move into the some of the more advanced maneuvers. We'll cover tic-tocs, hurricanes, funnels, pirouetting maneuvers, piro flips. That's what everybody wants to learn. Those are nearly last. Fairly difficult, but I think anyone can master them with a little bit of effort. And once you're there, you probably won't need to watch me tell you how to do it anymore, but we may cover some advanced maneuvers at a later date. Throughout this video, we'll be using the T-Rex 700 Nitro as our model. Although you don't need to fly that, you could fly any helicopter from a 250 up to a 700. You don't need to have all the most powerful motors or the greatest gizmos or the greatest gyros or flybarless or anything. You can pretty much start working on aerobatics with what you have, as long as it's a quality helicopter kit. For the first part, I think we'll work on a good place to start, which would be loops, rolls, and flips. It really doesn't matter which order you do them in, but those are the good place to start. They'll be your first looks at seeing your helicopter inverted, hopefully briefly. You definitely want to make sure that as a prerequisite that you're comfortable in all orientations of hovering. In other words, nose in, tail in, both sides also, not just one side, or you'll only be able to fly that way. And then being able to do forward flight. In other words, moderately fast forward flight, making circuits, making figure eights. You want to be really comfortable with that, because some of these maneuvers will get you going fast and you will need to turn around. I also can't stress enough that you need to have a well set up helicopter. A great place to start with that would be the Setting Up Your Helicopter series, also available on RC Fly TV. It is a fantastic way to get started. It'll take you through setting up all the electronics and your mechanical setups also. And at the end, we actually it's a T-Rex 500, we actually take it out and I fly a little 3D routine just to prove that if you follow the video, you will have a helicopter that's set up for any 3D maneuvers. So without further ado, I think we should go ahead and get started. All right, I'm going to show you the stick movements to perform a loop. So you're going to start off, you'll be flying forward about right like this. And we're going to lead with the collective. So we're going to increase our collective, that'll start the helicopter climbing. Then we're going to go back on the stick, not all the way and not a little bit, just kind of a medium stick deflection. And then as we come up towards the top, we're going to come down into the negative, but not all the way. You can see that I'm just a little bit below. If you go all the way down, the helicopter is going to shoot for the sky. And if you keep it up, it's going to dig in pretty hard at the top, and you're going to have a rock coming down towards the ground pretty fast. And then to level off, you keep your stick back, and then you just smoothly lead back in with the collective and release the stick, release the cyclic, and that will make the helicopter perform a loop. So we'll go through it one more time. I'm flying forward like this, lead with the collective, ease back on the cyclic right afterwards, As the helicopter comes around the top, we're going to ease off the collective and go slightly negative, not all the way, just a little bit negative. You can even leave it neutral, and then let it continue around. It's now aiming straight down, and as we pull out of the loop, we have to add collective back in, otherwise it's not going to come out through the bottom. To level off, you just reduce the collective, let your cyclic back to the center, and we're good. Now keep in mind that you will have to steer your helicopter left and right. You may even need to add rudder, but for your first loops you can pretty much just lead with the collective, back on the cyclic, reduce it at the top, level off, back to straight and level flight. And as you get better, you'll learn to control it, and we'll see how to do that once we get flying. All right, we're ready to go. Well, let's start on some loops first. A few of the things to remember. When you're starting, be going moderately fast to fast, we're going to lead with collective. In other words, I'm going to raise the collective before I pull back on the cyclic. I'm going to hold the collective all the way through the top of the loop. I'm going to ease off the collective a little bit at the top. Let the helicopter continue to come down, and we're going to pull out at the bottom, nice and smooth. And I'll talk you through some of the finer points after we try one, but we just want to get through the first loop and kind of survive it and let our hearts calm down. This is usually a big deal. This is the first time that you're going to see your helicopter upside down. So let's go do it. All right, we're going to fly a little bit of a distance away. Just a nice forward circuit. We're going to get going moderately fast. I'm going to lead with the collective. Nice slow pullback. Ease off on the collective. Bring the collective back in, and there we have it, our first loop. We'll do one more here. We'll roll into our turn. Come in kind of moderately fast. Leading with collective, easing back on the cyclic, little roll at the top, coming back in on the collective, and now we're done. Now some of the things to pay attention to when you're in a loop, especially if you have a flybar equipped machine, is that your helicopter is not going to track straight through the whole loop. Watch this, look up right from the tail. I'm just going to go straight back with the cyclic. Look at that roll. You see how it corkscrewed? That corkscrew is perfectly normal. Don't let anyone tell you that your helicopter setup is bad, because every flybar equipped helicopter is going to do it. I'm going to do one more, with the tail facing me, leading with collective, back on the cyclic, nice big loop. Watch this corkscrew. That corkscrew is normal. You are going to have to correct for it. Come around again here. This time I'm going to keep the helicopter on track with some aileron. I'm going to correct with some right aileron. Right aileron. The wind is pushing me just a little bit to the left. That's an important thing to remember. If you have a flybarless helicopter, you won't have to do that. But it can be a little bit disconcerting to a new pilot. I'm adding a little bit of right, a little bit of right. The other thing is to make sure that you do loops in both directions. So we're going to do them from this side now. You're still going to have to do the exact same thing. Lead with the collective, come back, a little bit of aileron to keep it flying nicely through the loop. And there we go. Don't accidentally forget to work on these both ways. Otherwise you're going to wind up only being able to do a loop in one direction. We'll do one more from this side. And you don't have to start them as low as I am. The longer you leave that collective in, the bigger and faster your loop will be. One thing to watch out for when you're doing loops the first time, your first loop is probably going to look like a 9. It's not going to look like a 0. It's probably going to look like this. You're going to get around here, you're going to go, oh crap. That's okay. Everybody does that their first time. Makes a nice little 9 through the air. What you want to do is make sure you don't make a 6. That'll get you a little too close to the ground. So make sure as you come over the top that you don't do too much negative. That's too much negative. You see how it's pushing to the outside? That doesn't make our loop look very nice. Consequently, if you use positive the whole time, look how much speed I have. That's too much speed. That can get pretty scary. And if you don't have a helicopter that's well set up, you could wind up in a situation where you'll hit the ground. So you'll have to practice this a little bit to get the hang of it, the right amount of collective. There we go. Have a little fun here. Make sure we do loops both ways. There we go. So again, to cover the main points, lead with your collective, and that means start with your collective. Then add in your cyclic. After you're done with your cyclic, you're going to put a little bit of negative in on the top, but not too much, because otherwise it's going to fly inverted. Let her come around, keep that same back pressure on the cyclic stick. Pull out, you should pull out at the same altitude you started. That's it. Congratulations, you just did your first helicopter aerobatics. Let's go do some rolls.